Hello and welcome back, Charlotte here for the Little Paper Tree, and today I'm making a black and white birthday card and showing you how to add detail to your stamps in a very simple way just to make them a little bit different. So I'm starting with one of the bears from Heffy Doodle's Unbearable Without You stamp set, which was one of the stamp sets in their very first release, and I have stamped it with MFT Black Licorice Hybrid Ink, which is an alcohol marker friendly ink and also incidentally friendly for using with your watercolours as well. And I've stamped it onto Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock. I went with the lighter weight because I'm going to be fussy cutting this out after I've coloured it, and the lighter weight is just easier to cut when fussy cutting. So I'm using my Spectrum Noir Illustrator markers to colour the image in, and I'm turning it into a panda because I thought a panda would be appropriate for a black and white birthday card. So I started by laying in my darkest grey, and then as I usually do with my colouring, I work from dark to light. And I coloured the arms, the legs and the ears to start with, and I then also decided to go in and add a bit of grey just around the outer edges of the body as well to just help define it a bit more. And then I went in and further added some oval shapes around the bear's eyes just to give that typical panda eye look to the bear. And this is the, as I said, very simple way of altering your stamps. This bear is not drawn as a panda, but that doesn't mean you can't turn it into a panda by colouring it in a way that it looks like one. Once I'd finished with those dark areas of the panda, I wanted to add some shading to the white areas as well, and panda fur often has a kind of creamy tone to it, so I used a very light shade. I used ivory and then just used my blender pen to blend that out. And then I went back in with my darkest grey that I'd used on the grey areas or black areas to colour the inner ears and also the nose. And then once I had finished colouring that, I fussy cut it out. There are coordinating dies for these stamp sets, but I did not get those, so I am fussy cutting instead, and I don't mind fussy cutting that much. I usually fussy cut right along the lines, and that is what I'm doing here. You just want to make sure you move the paper and not your scissors, and that will help you get a smoother cut. And whilst I am cutting that, I'm just going to explain a bit about the rest of the card. There was some issue with my camera and I lost some of the footage, so I can't show you everything that I did for the card, but it was fairly straightforward, and thankfully it did catch all of what I was showing for creating this panda, because that was my main focus of this video, was the quick tips on adapting your stamps. But as I said, I went for a black and white birthday card, and I did stamp a pattern on the lower portion of my card base, which you will see in a little while. I used the BFF background stamp from Catherine Paula, which I've used in quite a few of my videos for the Little Paper Tree recently, and I'll link to an example of one of those in the top right hand corner. And I just stamped that directly onto my card base with Altenew Jet Black ink, and I masked off the top portion of the card with some scrap paper because I only wanted it on the bottom portion of the card, and you will see what that looks like in a little while. Now that I've finished my fussy cutting, I'm going to edge the image with a black water-based brush tip marker. This just helps to disguise the core of the paper, otherwise it leaves a kind of white line. So by using the black marker you can make the line of the stamp look more consistent with where you cut, if that makes sense. It just makes it look a bit more professional. You don't have to do this, of course, and if you leave a white border when you cut around the image anyway, then you definitely don't need to. I just like to do it this way. And you do want to do it from the back of your image so that you don't get pen all over your nicely coloured image. Then I will move on to my sentiment strip, and I'm using the Happy Birthday sentiment that's in Heffy Doodle's Happy Snappy Crocs, which also came in that first release. And I'm white heat embossing it onto a snippet of black card in keeping with my monochrome colour scheme. And I will just melt that with my heat gun. I did treat the cardstock very well with my anti-static powder tool first to make sure that the embossing powder would only stick where I wanted it to. And once I'm done melting it, I will use a dry cloth to brush away that excess powder to get the strip to be nice and black once again. And then I'm going to trim that down. I want it to be the width of my card base and just about the height of the sentiment. So I'll just use my paper trimmer to trim that. And here you can see the card base where I stamped the background stamp from Catherine Paula. And as I said, I used Altenew jet black ink, and I masked off the top portion of the card so it would only be on the bottom of the card. It's not a very straight masking line, but it doesn't matter because my sentiment strip will be covering that up. So after folding the card base, I'm going to adhere the panda onto my sentiment strip with some Tombow Mono Multi liquid glue, and I only put the glue on the area of the panda that will be overlapping the sentiment strip. I'll then flip it over and I'm going to add foam squares all over the back of the strip and also the panda to pop them up together. And then I'll use my T-square ruler to help me get that sentiment strip and panda lined up on the card base just above the join of the stamping. Then another thing that I lost the footage of was just adding some Nuvo drops. I used ebony black Nuvo drops for this just to add a little more interest. And that completes my monochrome birthday card. I hope you enjoyed it and that you learnt something new perhaps. I'd love to know if you've ever coloured your stamps in this way to kind of adapt them and make something a bit different of them. If you enjoyed this video, please do press the like button below, and if you did not enjoy it, then the dislike button is right next to it. You can subscribe to my channel and the Little Paper Tree channel by pressing the buttons on screen now, and there are also a couple of other videos on screen if you'd like to see more from us. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time. Bye!